Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda and the minutes from our November 5th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda and the minutes of the previous meeting.
Been moved by Ms. Brewer. Is there a second?
Second.
And
2 seconds.
2 seconds over here. You pick. Been moved and seconded. Will you poll the board, please?
Pam Brewer,
Yes.
Tal Rancourt, Matt Elliott,
Yes.
Jon Draper,
Yes.
Jack Comley,
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item, let's see. Action items. Guess that's you, Mr. Burt. You're next. And welcome, everybody. We'd like to have a good crew here. It's good to see everybody. Happy New Year. Go, Burt.
Happy New Year to everybody. Our town manager, Charlotte Rodriguez, has a few things she wants to bring towards the board. We'll let
Okay.
her go first.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I didn't see a paper. Sorry.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
The joking thing right now is that we have hit the ground in 2026 sprinting, not running, but sprinting. On the dais, you have a packet. The top part says water basics for decision makers. And then there's a whole lot of information on a gentleman named Frederick Blocher. I'm hoping I am not sabotaging his name. We have been able to connect with him. He is a professor at Florida Atlantic University. As you can see, all of the documentation here reflects all of his credentials. So he is going to work with us on a utilities plan. And we want to talk about why that's important, which I think this group probably already really knows that. But for the public and anyone else who's listening, we wanted to be able to put that out. So the infrastructure, especially for water, wastewater, and utilities, is one of the most critical pieces of our long-term planning. So next week, staff will be bringing forward to Town Council a request to initiate a strategic utility master plan. This plan will be developed to work alongside our existing and evolving regional utilities framework. And the purpose of the strategic utility master plan is to evaluate our current and our future capacity needs. It will plan for growth in a responsible and affordable way. It will also coordinate with our regional utility partners, protect the ratepayers by planning for investments ahead of time rather than reacting later, and it will ensure that utility decisions align with the strategic plan and our comprehensive plan, which we are currently in. The utilities are long-term investments that will last for decades, so the planning now will allow the town to avoid emergency projects with the unforeseen costs. It will improve our grant eligibility and ensure infrastructure decisions support but not limit our future growth. And I'll let you take it from there if you'd like. You don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about the history of how we've evaluated Pannoni and some of the costs we have heard about. You want me to go ahead or? Okay. Mr. Warner has been trying to get us a strategic master plan for utilities, and we've had different numbers. Some of the lower numbers have been $600,000. With the assistance of Mr. Blocher, we will be able to get this for under $19,000. So we will be able to bring that forward to council with the full plan. He was trying to get a copy because he is working in other municipalities. One that is very close to us right now is the city of Clewiston. So we can piggyback on that as well. So we'll have that for town council on Monday, and we thought you might be excited to hear that we are finally going to be able to move something like this forward for the town of Lake Placid and our regional utility. Thank you.
As Charlotte was saying, she made contact with this gentleman, and he works for the university and has the students help out. That's why we're getting it for such a low price. I reached out to Kimberly Horn just to get, we have oh, geez. No, I'm trying to think. I went blank. No, not the library. Studies for water flow and wastewater flow. The water one has already been done. It was $50,000 to do the water side of that. So we're getting this all done for under $20,000. So it's just a fairly good deal. You know, it's kind of, you're going to use it off the flow to rural water. assessment they did for water, wastewater, and so they're going to base it on that. Water models I was going for, water, wastewater, and he's going to put it together for us, and that will help us a lot better in for applying grants and other federal funds. So Charlotte, they got that together for us in the last 3 weeks. So it's, it was a great opportunity, and I think we should have a good starting point moving in the future. So next thing here is we're going to start this $40 million grant project review. You can see it's attached in your package. Let me just find the beginning of it here. There we go. I'll do my director's report at the end. So basically, this is the background for the $40 million project, wastewater plant and other projects. So biggest thing everybody keeps going back and forth about is capacity. The projects that were listed in this grant here, if we reserved capacity for them, it would be 4.7 million gallons a day. And we only built a 1 million gallon a day plant. So, as I've been explaining that we can use some of this for development, and we don't have to save it all for septic to sewer capacities as we go. We're going to get development fees and other things, and at 80%, then we'll start discussing about expanding the plant or building a new one. So basically, all this stuff here has been discussed before. It just shows you the areas that they put into the grant and the gallons per day that that there's suggesting that we put in reserve, which is 4.7 million gallons a day. And the plant's only 1 million. So our Kevin McCarthy here, our old utility director, volunteered to come in, and if you had any questions on that $40 million grant, he'd be willing to answer them, and if you had the questions, just trying to explain how this is, we're working on this and trying to get the septic to sewer going. And if Kevin wants to come up and explain it to you a little more, because, he was kind of writing it and everything else.
I want to make a comment real quick. Rachel is going to get her thumb drive and the finances. She's going to plug in and be able to explain that to you as well, so that you can see a snapshot of where we are with the grants and go through that process with you. Thank you, Kevin.
I guess just real quick on capacity reservations and what you should do, and that's something that you as a utility board it's not a urgent push, but it's something that you need to talk about and make a recommendation, and the commission needs to set aside some amount for the septic to sewer projects and some amount for current development or future development. So you did a $40 million grant. That was based on converting, I don't remember the total number, 4,500 homes or something like that, maybe more than that. We had to keep backing out, as you know, you've heard about this for a long time, backing down, modifying the grant. It got to the point where we literally had no money left over to do any septic to sewer conversions, and even backed out Tomoka. So you still have a wastewater plant that needs to be tied into the new plant. Currently, you have about 300,000 gallons in excess capacity between the three plants. So if you take that number and keep it for your development, that would be my recommendation, but it's entirely up for a discussion. And then you have the remaining 700 that is taken up with current use, and then potential for development. Potential for septic sewer. So in the discussions on that my recommendation is you don't reserve all of it for septic to sewer, and you don't reserve all of it for development. You want some other development to be able to come in unless the town decides we don't want any development, in which case nobody will build a house other than a septic to sewer conversion. But it's a difficult situation. You want to be able to control your growth, but you do that through your ordinances and your comprehensive plan and your zoning and all those requirements. And I'll use a couple of examples. So if a developer wants to come in, buys 5,000 acres, and you say you don't have capacity, he has a couple of options with DEP and then the county. He can put his own package plan in. If his lot sizes are big enough, he can put in an advanced septic tank system. So you want them on your system. You want that you have the best, you have build a plant that's 99% plus removal for phosphorus and nitrogen. You want them on your plant, whether they be on a commercial development or a septic sewer conversion. So you want to be able to control that growth as far as what discharges into the groundwater and ends up in your lakes. And if I lose you, because I'll bounce, I didn't prepare anything. I just was planning on answering questions. But you should reserve that. So Bert can answer the question when somebody comes in, because if a developer comes in and they want to know, do you have capacity before they can move forward with any of the process, he has to say, yes, I have capacity. He has to check off that. Road and bridge, county road and bridge, or city will have to say, yes, we have bridge capacity. Schools have to say, yes, we have school capacity. If they don't have those, then it doesn't move forward without, if it's a road, they have to expand the road system. If it's school, they have to pay for school capacity. And if it's a wastewater plant, they have to pay for wastewater capacity or build their own. So you want those options and you want to weigh those options. So I think it's prudent that the board and the commission reserve something so you don't have a huge developer that comes in and ties up all of your capacity. And when I say tie up, they don't tie up capacity until they write a big check. They'll come in and they'll ask if you have capacity, and we give them a contingent letter. Yes, we have capacity. Contingent upon you writing a check. That's what guarantees your portion of the plant, is when you write a check. And I don't remember what our current capacity charge is, $2,000 or $3,000, and I say ours, yours. It needs to be recalculated and revisited because you now have new numbers. That's based on old plant numbers, not new plant numbers. And future cost of land purchasing and what it's going to cost to build new capacity. So that needs to go up and be addressed also. But you should reserve some capacity, in my opinion, some capacity for septic to sewer, and keep some of the capacity so that people can build in places that are not septic to sewer conversions. You have a world of empty lots just inside the city limits besides the greater regional area of the utility. So that kind of is it in a nutshell. Without getting into hard numbers, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, or at any time. Quite honestly, I came up for this meeting, but I'm available anytime. So if there's any questions, I'll answer.
You were stating that the excess capacity is at 300,000 when the plant is complete.
The current excess capacity of the 3 plants we have is about 300,000 gallons. So forget the new plant. Today, between the south plant, the north plant, and Tomoka, you had about 300,000 gallons in excess capacity that would allow development to move forward. So that's what you currently have. The new plant's not online. I would recommend that you keep that capacity for development, and you take the remaining and reserve it for septic to sewer conversion so that you have a number, which is, again, I think going to be about, haven't looked at the numbers in a year, so my memory's not that good on it, but you should reserve 300,000 or 400,000 gallons out of the new plant for septic sewer conversion. So you know that you have that number guaranteed and you can move forward. Now, whether development comes in or doesn't, that's a number that can get changed in the future, but it sets a baseline for Bert to answer questions when they have in for grant applications. It's, in my opinion, a good number to DEP. DEP built on the premise that we were going to do septic to sewer conversions. And so we have that, I guess, pledge of faith or whatever you want to call it, that yes, we're going to do septic sewer conversion. So I think it's good in their mind that we have reserved this capacity. I think they would agree with that, because that was the basis for the $40 million grant. And then that leaves you, I mean, that kind of takes care of where you're at as a capacity. You want to be able to bring some capacity in the plant. The most important thing is get the Tomoka line to the Tomoka plant put in there, because you're going to have a 1 million gallon a day plant and only 200,000 or 300,000 running through it. So it reduces your cost to run the plant. It's still good, but it's still better. You got 2 tanks and you got a $40 million plant sitting there that will age. Motors will still go bad sitting there not being used or not being used to capacity. So you're still going to have some maintenance expense.
So how many gallons that are needed for the septic to sewer conversion?
That's based on how many houses you do. So right now you have, I think I just heard they got a grant for about $500,000. If that's 15,000 a piece, whatever that. Huh?
About 33 homes.
Only 33 homes? Okay. So whatever the numbers work out. It says you get funding from the state to do those septic to sewer conversions. So, and how long that's going to take you, where you think you're going to be in that process. So it's, I don't have a crystal ball, nobody else does. How is the state going to come in next year? They froze all their applications from last year, so there were no new applications last year. And so are you going to see another $40 million? Not anytime soon, because that would have to be part of an infrastructure, federal government dumping a bunch of money in, and that's not likely to happen. That's actually been the reverse. They've been pulling back funding.
What I'm asking is, if are you going to have to reserve that for septic to sewer conversion to get the grant?
Is it a requirement?
Yes.
I do not believe it's a requirement. They're going to ask if you have capacity. You're going to say, yes, you have capacity. So I don't think it's a requirement for any future grants. It may weigh in, as you say. I think it just weighs in your favor as the committee, because there's a committee in Tallahassee that looks at the grants. And we've talked to Mitch multiple times. I'm sure they've talked to Mitch multiple times since I've left. The reason we didn't get the successive grants that we applied for, while I was here, we applied for 3 and we didn't get any of them. It says, well, your new plant's not online. So we're not just going to stack money there for your septic sewer conversions. So it's not a requirement to reserve that for septic sewer requirements. I mean, for future grants. I just think it benefits you in the grant process that you're more likely to get the grant, saying, well, we have this capacity. We're waiting on you to fund it. UDEP said this was a good project. You needed it to be done. Now you need to fund the rest of it. So we have that. So we're doing what we said we were going to do and what you said we should be doing moving forward.
How many gallons per day are we treating right now, approximately?
Leanne, do you have that number off the top of your head? How many gallons are we treating today? I want to say it's around 300, 350 between the 3 plants. South plant was 35,000. Tomoka was 125, and the north plant was 100 plus. So I think about 300,000. It was maybe 350.
And what happened to us closing all these package plants and going to one because of the inefficiencies and labor and
The
not
south
enough?
the south plant's under construction. That lift station, force main, that was all funded. It's due to completion in March or so. The south plant's going to get abandoned, and that one's set to do. And the force mains are all in place to do that. So that piece is all set and in place. It's the Tomoka plant and the force main Tomoka plant along Lake June Road is where we ran out of. We had to pull that out because we didn't have enough funding to do that portion of it.
Gotcha.
And that's because the wastewater plant was $34 million. So
Okay,
we did not have enough money to close the Tomoka plant, but the south plant is getting closed, and that's
Okay.
all well underway.
So we're not basing this reserve capacity on stuff that's going to be closing?
No,
in the near future? Okay.
No, my 350 includes the
Yep.
Tomoka number into the
Right, what'd you say?
into the new plant.
I was going to say, if I could make a comment, when Mr. McCarthy said that we had probably spoken with Mitch Holmes from DEP, we have had a conversation with him, myself, Mr. Warner, and also our clerk, Ms. Eva. We were on the call with him, and we discussed capacity and having to reserve it for the $40 million grant. And he said that the idea is that we would have some capacity, but we would not restrict growth based on capacity. They would want us to use capacity so that the plant is up and being used. And one of the things we have said is we basically have a vehicle in a garage with no road out. So we've got to be able to use it instead of it sitting there and not being used, because it's going to cost us more money. It's my understanding. You two are the experts. So I've just been privy to some of those conversations. We were asked if we had that in an email. Yes, we do. We have that in an email from Mr. Holmes, if anybody would like to see a copy of that.
Is there a difference in the operating cost? We'll talk about the new plan now. Depending on, let's say, whether we have 300,000 gallons a day going through it, or close to 1 million gallons a day, as far as the operating costs.
Well, absolutely. It's kind of like whether you're pushing a Volkswagen down the road or a semi down the road. How much horsepower does it take to do it? In this case, you are moving water
All right.
through the process, and it goes, and you're aerating that, and you're deoxifying it. So it's a process that you're going through, 5-stage process. It goes through these, and you're pumping that water. So the treatment process, and then you're hauling the sludge that comes off of that. So if you're only doing 300,000 versus 1 million, your costs are greatly reduced. Your income is also greatly reduced because you're not charging all of those people.
Right.
So all of the motors are set up on variable VFDs, variable frequency drives, so they're going to run at slower speeds. There are, on every motor, there's sweet spots that you want to be running in a range that they are the most efficient.
All right.
And so if you're running below that curve, you're running more, it's costing you more in electricity than it's actually if it's on the high, at the top of the point of the curve. So there are some back and forth costs that tie into that. The testing that you've been doing on 3 plants gets dropped down to 1 once you get Tomoka closed, and that testing mirrors their identical testing for all of them. So you're going to save money there by just doing 1 plant. But for the volume, it does cost less,
Okay.
but you also have less income.
Right.
So
Is it electricity is the biggest cost reduction in the, would you say, if the
Yeah, I
plant
would-
is running at
yeah.
1/3 capacity
yeah,
or
it's
something? Okay.
most of your costs are tied into
Yeah.
the pumping costs and the aeration costs. Yes.
Okay. Are there any, like in drinking water treatment, you use chlorine or whatever, are there any chemicals that are involved in the,
Yes, we also use chlorine because we have to disinfect the discharge before it goes out. There are other chemicals that they buy. There's chemicals that they use to solidify the sludge before it gets shipped out. So again, the more you're doing, the chemical costs go up. It's based on a per gallon basis. So yes, so the chemical costs go up and go down based on the amount that you're treating. But yes, there are chemical uses at the plant.
thank you.
So help me understand what the overall thought process is. We're trying to reserve capacity for development to a certain degree. But you're utilizing numbers with plants that are being closed at the moment or wanting to be closed. You want to close Tomoka, so that capacity reverts back to 0, correct?
That capacity rolls, that plant's closed, it's gone. So then if you take out all of those existing 3 plants, you now have a 1 million gallon a day plant that's running at 350,000 gallons of capacity. So my overall thought process is that you want to reserve, this is utilities, y'all are the decision makers. The recommendation is you reserve some of that capacity so a developer can't come in. I don't believe a developer is going to come in today or in the next 5 years or maybe out in the next 10 years. But it's a possibility. They come in, they write a big check, and they take all of your capacity. If you haven't reserved any for septic to sewer conversions, they've reserved all that capacity. Now you're kind of in a pickle of what you're doing for this grant applications for septic to sewer, because he's bought that capacity and he magically builds all those houses, which is not going to happen, but you have to plan for the event. And if you guarantee a capacity, then you have to give him that capacity. If he writes that check, you can't sell that capacity to somebody else. You can't let somebody else come in and take it. He's bought it. He owns it. It may sit there unused, but he's paid for that capacity on that plant. So
Is there currently any reserve capacities at all?
that's the 300,000 that I was using. There is current reserve capacity in the 3 plants.
No. Has any commitments been made to anyone that outstanding capacity has been committed?
No, nobody's written, to my knowledge, unless they've done it. Bert would know.
Just like an individual home or something like that, but no development or nothing like that. So Kevin's basically saying, right now, the 350, so break it up in thirds, third for what we have now, third for septic sewer, and third basically for development.
And let me back up 1 second. You do have, Camp and Conference Center has paid for their other 30,000 gallons per day. So they do have a reserved capacity for Camp and Conference Center. They paid for that up front, so they're currently at 30,000 a day, and they plan on their development and their increase to add another 30 to that, and they have paid for that, so that's bought capacity. But no other developer has come in and written a check
So
for.
there's no reservation on in-town.
The Lake Richard development, that one?
And
Never.
what about all the
No,
individual properties that reside inside of town? They aren't guaranteed
No.
to have capacity?
Like Kevin said, there's no guarantee until you write the check. We've had inquiries, and we will send them a letter saying, we do have it, but, it's not yours until you write the check. So, we've had a couple developers come in and, ask, and we say, yes, we have the capacity, or as of, when the new plant comes online, we'll have it. But otherwise, right now, we're at a standstill. Like Kevin said, Camp and Conference was the only new development put on in a long time, as far as I know. So that's 60,000 a day. You're 350, so you're 400,000. You go up to 80%. So we just cut that and divide that, but basically by thirds. And then you have your development, you have your septic to sewer. We're doing our obligation there. We're the obligation for developers, and then we have the current. So it's that's where we're at there.
Yeah, specifically about Lake Richard. Lake Richard has not written a check for any development,
Okay.
any capacity.
And we have a $500,000 grant, you said, to hook up current people.
Yeah, it's like
We're mixing gallons with dollars. just trying to-
490. We just hired a new grant septic to sewer coordinator. Jennifer, you want to stand up?
Oh, Jennifer.
She is right now working with Martin County, Randy Bell from E1, getting us a program started from scratch. We have picked a project area, which will be Lake Serena, because it falls under that $40 million grant. You'll see the areas in there. We got water lines in there, and it's low-hanging fruit. So we got, I believe it's $15,000 a piece. There's 33 connections in there, and that should take care of that little.
Right, so the grant she would be applying for, how many houses will that take up? We don't want to, you see what I'm getting at? If it's
I
to convert
think
200 homes, we need to
Yeah, I
allocate a little
think
more space.
ERU is what, 150 a day?
I think they're using 150. We're closer to
Well,
125
ERU is,
actual, but-
is gallons per day for an average house. So that's basically,
Okay.
there's a set ERU set for 150, so you do 30 houses at 150. It's not going to be that much.
Okay.
But that's right on the lake there, on Lake Serena right there. And then Lake Pearl will probably be the next spot. So like I said, we got this grant, we haven't signed the papers yet, but we've been approved for it.
And what's your gallons per house you're figuring, and your
About 150 a day.
150 gallons a day?
Yeah, that's your average house roughly.
So are you looking for a recommendation on how much we need to hold in reserves?
I don't think we
From
need
us?
to do that today. We can put it on the
Okay.
agenda for next month or something. We just wanted to try to explain the $40 million grant, the obligation for reservations at this point. Charlotte wanted to bring that master utility plan to your attention because she wants to get it on the town council agenda next Monday, for fund transfers. So this is more informational for you guys. And Kevin volunteered to come down if he had any other questions on that $40 million grant. We're just trying to explain everything to you. Some of that money went for design, and then the plant, and, we're just trying to show where we're at with that $40 million that's been, it's been spoken for, encumbered, or whatever you want to put it. And we're getting down to the last phases of the wastewater plant. We just gave them a 30-day extension just because material's not showing up and just finishing up stuff. But we're still basically on time with that one. It's moving along pretty good. We're doing the install of a new lift station and force main at South Plant decommission. That's almost completed. Green Dragon and Marquata, that should be wrapped up by next month, and Main Street. So all these grant money we have out, these projects are coming to a close here within the next couple months. So basically, we can get these all cleaned out, and then we start applying for new ones. We're like a restart. We're going to start. We'll have our master utility plan to submit with our grants. We have the lift stations and flows come from camp and conference. We've closed and decommissioned South Plant, and like I said, the top one we'll probably be requesting is for Tomoka to be decommissioned, running some lines down Lake June Road, some water lines about 5,600 feet on Lake June Road coming to 27, and then putting some force main there and getting connections there so we can start working on Lake June. So that's kind of where we're heading towards right now. And we're just trying to, keep you informed and trying to let you know where we're at, so.
So what is the residual balance of the $40 million grant at this point? What has not been spent?
Oh, there she is, okay. Rachel's got the financial stuff. Sure.
There's about $16 million that have not been pulled down yet.
How much?
For the $40 million grant,
16 million.
$16 million.
But the plant was $34 million.
It was, so they did some direct buy to save some money. So once the project is actually completed, we're thinking about $1 million that's going to be still given a cushion for just in case something else happened, they run into extra expenses or what have you.
So the end dollar of the new plant will be roughly what?
It's going to be very close to $40 million.
Out of the 40 million, you're asking what we have left at the end. So
Yes.
everything is allocated out of the 40 million. The $1 million that right now is contingency on the plant. So you have the $1 million contingency, and it depends on whether we have any of those expenses. If not, then you have that $1 million sitting there that we can buy. We have approval to buy the package plants for septic sewer conversion, so you could use that $1 million to buy that and not lose it. Timing wise is not going to have you enough time to do any other project with that $1 million because it has to be spent by June of 2026. So timing-wise, not going to be there, depending on where you're at with the plant and anything that happens. The final phase of the plant is probably where you're going to have change orders, because that's when they start doing the reconstruction of the old plant, the existing main plant is reused. The tankage is reused. It becomes to chlorine contact. It becomes sludge disposal. There's piping that has to be done and rehab, and that's where it gets really tricky in the construction process. The new part of the plant is easy. So change orders are probably going to come in at this end of this project over the next 2 or 3 months as they try and tie those together. But that's what that $1 million is for. If you have change orders, approved change orders, and the balance is what's going to be left out of the grant. Everything else is allocated between all the engineering costs, the south plant construction, the Green Dragon, the Main Street lift stations. All of those were all part of that other $6 million that wasn't tied up in the 34. $34 million for the plant left you $6 million for other stuff, other projects.
Right, so there's still available $6 million.
$1 million.
1 million.
The $6 million got spent doing the design on the septic sewer conversions, got spent closing the south plant, doing the force main from the south plant up. Other projects other than the new plant is $34 million. The $6 million is tied up in the other projects that were done. Main Street lift station, like I said, the other things. We enlarged the line from Camp and Conference Center so you could tie the south plant in, allow for some future growth. That came out of the $40 million. The lift stations, the lift station enlargement for Camp and Conference Center, the new lift station at South Plant, the new lift station at Main Street, those all came out of that remaining 6, and plus all the engineering for all of the various pieces of the puzzle. So basically you have $1 million that hasn't been spent,
So
hasn't been
we have
allocated.
spent $39 million expanding inflow, but we have no customer base to feed it.
We don't have an expanded customer base.
Right.
That is correct, other than the Camp and Conference Center and the South Plant and the Camp and Conference Center.
And there's money to hook 35 homes up.
What?
We can get 35 more customers with the $500,000, you're saying?
With the current grant, that's about where you're going to be at.
That's where we're hoping that the master strategic utilities plan will be able to come in once you see his credentials and the way that he's able to lay it out. That will hopefully be able to paint the picture outside of what we've already laid out, with us being able to phase it and how we can bring on more homes.
In addition to the $40 million, there's other funding sources that the town have. So they also have a $600,000 grant for the lift station and a $570,000 for the lift station as well. So that is helping in adjunction to the $40 million. So it's $40 million is not the whole project. And that they also took out a SRF loan too. So, and the loan is at this point is being closed out. So we're getting ready to get the final payout on that loan. So the town won't have to hopefully have that loan to go out for 30 years. Should be paid off.
So is there a plan for increasing revenue? Because it doesn't sound like there is any.
Currently, they just did a rate increase for the utilities, so the rates did go up. And based on Florida Rural Water, they kind of went up kind of significant. So there is going to be revenue that comes in to offset the expenses.
But what about increasing customer base? I think that's what he's getting at.
Yeah, so that'll
Any
be
plan
a
for that?
Bert question.
Well, that's dependent on the next grant cycle with DEP, quite honestly. So that was where what Bert was referring to was the closing of the Tomoka plant, but that also ties force main in all the way up along Lake June Road and then extends it down past Bishop Park so that you have the capability of adding on those homes. So you have force mains that were run that allow you to do some of the other conversions, septic sewer conversions. So you have kind of a backbone put in That's why you can do Lake Serena, because the force main that comes from Camp and Conference Center is there, so they can go out and now tie into that. So you've put a backbone in, now you have to get grant funding to do the actual customer base. And that's the typical grant cycle with DEP. You would ask for $3 to $4 million. Again, depending on densities and where you're at, that $500,000 may be 33 homes along Lake Serena, but it may be 50 or 60 or more somewhere else. So I don't remember the number, the Tomoka number was probably about $2 million, but you're bringing the Tomoka plant capacity in, that's 125,000 a day, but that's, again, but new customer base is septic to sewer grants is the plan for that.
What about the new Lake Mirror Drive sewer line? Where are we with that? Is that just
Okay,
sitting waiting
it's
there?
Lake Mirror, they just put a wastewater force main down there. There's no water line
Right.
there. It was part of the project, but the funds weren't available. So basically, water meters measure the wastewater lines. So we'll have to wait till we get a water line down there. Now, you're talking about, as Kevin said, if we can get Tomoka done, we're just coming down County Road 17 to tie into the plant, and we have the opportunity there to pick up those customers along that road also, because there is water there too.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we get closer, Lake June Drive, Simpsonville, that's in there. They have a package plant. They're under a FDEP consent right now. So we're trying to get something down that way. That way they can decommission their package plant, hook up to a new lift station, and so that doesn't contaminate that lake. So there's a path there with the density up on the northern side right there, and then Lake Serena, Lake Pearl area.
So that Lake Mirror line, is the fresh water coming from 27? Where that
Yes.
line that runs to Highway
Yeah,
Park?
it come from 20, yeah, I believe it was
That's where it would come
27.
from?
Yes.
It's looped between, the freshwater line loops the line on 27 and ties into the Camp and Conference water line.
The new
So that
water
actually
line.
loops
Okay.
across those, the Lake Mirror
Yes.
line. So comes under 27, and then Lake Mirror and ties into the line.
So there is fresh water there, there's just no connections?
Well, the pipe's not in the ground yet.
Right.
Okay,
The ability is there, but
okay,
they designed it with a water line, but the funds weren't there to do it.
gotcha.
He just told me that there's roughly on Lake Mirror Drive East, once that water line's in there, about 27 homes there too. And like I said, as we get the sewer lines in and the water lines in, and if people have to replace their septics, you're talking 15,000 cheaper than 30,000. So there's the opportunity for more customers as the aging infrastructure out there. So there's potential for more customers, but we have to get the sewer lines in the ground because town code, you have to be within 60 feet to be hooked up, so. And then the cost of an advanced treatment septic system is 30,000 plus, for the connection for a grind station, 15 or less.
Has anybody looked at the areas, I'm mostly familiar with Lake June and the test results in there. Has anybody looked at the nitrogen levels in Lake June? And it seems from what I've seen from, I think it was the University of Florida, somebody there had done a test, right? That the high nitrogen levels seem to be down on the south end of the lake where the water from Lake Placid flows into and from the canals there. And also, surprisingly to me, on the west side of the plant where there is no, west side of the lake where there is no development. How is that How can we explain that? I mean, I understand why, coming from Lake Placid, but the west side, is there that much wildlife up there that's doing their business or what?
Yeah, we don't do testing. There's individuals out there or groups that do like Lake Watch. They do all the testing. But basically, the soil out here is all sand and everything just leaches in. So it just depends where the groundwater is running, and it goes into the lake. If you're septic, up here with those soil conditions, you can't tell if your septic's failing, because if you're in a more of a heavier density soil, the water would come up, and it'd pond in around your septic field. Here, everything's so porous, it just drains in, and then lakes are low, everything goes down to the lakes. So there's not, you could probably do some testing on the property, find out whose tanks are leaking, but like I said, we don't do that. And as basic, the idea of putting these sewer lines in and grind stations, as you start eliminating them, you're going to see a reduction in nitrates and cleaning up the lakes.
Yeah, I understand that. What I'm saying is, shouldn't we be concentrating on the areas where the nitrogen levels in the lake are the highest, or where we think?
Well, you got to get the pipes out there. So you got to start and you got to build it out as like a Lego system. You just keep moving it out. You can't just start there and run a line out there. We have to go with the infrastructure that we have. Wastewater to measure the wastewater, and as we get the sewer lines in, and then we continue out that way. So the plan is, as we can connect basically like a skeleton, get all the bones together here, and then we can start going out. Yeah, like I call it Lake Placid proper. We want to get everything connected there, and then as we go out, it's like a spider web. You just can't just go run a straight pipe, like you said, way out there. You're not going to pick up. It's not fiscally responsible, and it's just not feasible. We got to start the skeleton, start building the skeleton, and then moving that out.
So then, it would appear to me that initially, let's say over the next 5 years, 10 years, whatever, we get some grants, that the improvement in the water quality like I say, I'm more familiar with Lake June than the other lakes, would be relatively minor until we get out further to where we know the higher nitrogen contents are coming into the lake. Is that?
Yep,
Yeah.
correct. But like this, I'm not sure where the groundwater's pushing it in or anything else, where they're higher. But as you eliminate little pieces at a time, it's going to get lower. So.
Okay, because I mean, like in Lake June Point, for example, a lot of the homes are 20 to 25 feet above the water elevation of the lake. So even if their septic tank is leaking, or if the outflow from their tile fields, it has to go through maybe 15 or 20 foot of sand before it could get down to possible water level and then flow into the lake. So doesn't that help compared to some other properties where let's say the properties are 5 feet above the lake level?
So I'll say there is a minor benefit because you're in sand with very little organics, so the organics don't take up the nitrogen or phosphorus. So whether you're 25 feet or 100 feet, it doesn't give you a lot of benefit. There is absolutely some benefit based on the soil types, but because of the type of soils we have, you don't get a lot of treatment through the sand before it goes into groundwater. I will say, when you ask about what's going to happen to Lake June specifically, you're going to take a current plant that discharges the bulk of its water into the ground system above Lake June, and it ends up into Lake June, and that's going to go from a 75% to a 99% plus reduction in phosphorus and nitrogen. So I would imagine, I don't know that for a fact until that happens, that you're going to see some improvements, at least in the cove section of water quality from that coming through. Less of that water will go through after the DOT project is done. The town received $1.5 million, or there's a plan for $1.5 million along the, to redo landscaping along the medians. That will expand your reuse water. So more of that will go in along the, more of your reuse will go in along the medians than goes in today. But everything that gets discharged from the plant, the current plant, is about 25% cleaner than what's getting discharged today, which is 80% cleaner than what's getting discharged by a septic tank.
Okay, and just one more question on that then. What percentage of the treated water in the plant, both the existing plant and the new plant, some of it evaporates into the air, but most of it seeps into the ground. Is that correct?
Yeah, most of it goes, the vast majority of it goes into either irrigation on the medians, which is still going into groundwater, or through our percolation ponds, which then impacts Lake June.
Okay.
The advantage is that's 99 plus removal of nitrogen and phosphorus, where it's about 75, 80 today. So.
Okay. Now, does that, let's just say that the percentage that seeps into the ground at the plant is whatever it is, 80%, and 20% evaporates into the air, right? Now, I assume that would change from winter to summer, because in the summer, when the humidity is, approaching 80, 90%, 100% in the morning, you're going to have little, if any, evaporation. Is that so? That
we've never gotten into the evaporation on the plant and how much comes off of that daytime, night. I mean, we have no numbers on that.
Okay.
So it's immaterial from an operation standpoint of the plant, what evaporates off, because what's going to evaporate off first is typically pure water, and it's going to leave the minerals and the contaminants in the plant, and that's going to get treated and go into the groundwater. It's clean water going into the groundwater. So typically it's kind of like your ice machines. What freezes first is pure water, and it leaves the contaminants. So the same thing's going to happen in evaporation. What you get off of that evaporation is basically distilled water, and so that does have the potential to affect rainfall. I don't know. I don't think it's any significant amount of anything.
Okay, and maybe, I guess, a question for Bert, too. Since my understanding is that right now we don't have the money to decommission the Tomoka plant and tie it into the new wastewater treatment plant, does the line, the force main from Tomoka, when it becomes, when it's installed and operational, right? Is that where the wastewater line from the new police station is going to tie? Is that going to tie into that line, or is that tying into something else?
No, the force main for Tomoka will about 6,000 feet going west on Lake June. Force main will come down there. Force main then will run down Lake June, County Road 17, head south, and then just, I don't know, maybe a quarter mile before the bridge, it's going to go under the railroad tracks and attach to the new plant.
Okay.
No, the police station is going to be tying into, they're going to bore under the road here and tie into a manhole, which will go to Tomoka. Right there over by the gas station on the other side of the road.
I'm sorry, could you say that again, where the new police station is going to tie in?
The police station is going to be bored under 27.
Okay.
And there's a manhole on the west side there by the gas station, and that flows to Tomoka. So eventually it'll go through Tomoka plant, then head to the new wastewater plant when the new force main's at.
Okay, so we have an existing sewer, you're saying, up to the area of the gas station there?
On the west side of 27.
Thank you.
There's an existing lift station behind the Sitco, and that's where the manhole ties into that it'll go into.
Has there been a cost analysis? I know if we decommission Tomoka, you'll save money on personnel and chemicals and all that. But has there been a financial analysis, because no new customers are being generated, the cost of decommissioning it versus the savings, and would that money be better applied into new customers?
Basically, no new customers, but if we get some development to the north of us, all that flows to Tomoka. So there is a possibility, if we get some new customers north of Tomoka, they will flow through where that plant's at and then go to decommission it and send it to the new plant. The other part, the cost savings on that is we won't have to operate that plant no more. It's an older plant, it's starting to age, and infrastructurally real bad. So that connecting it to the new wastewater plant will save us money on that too. And if we can get it, we have to pay the permits on that, testing, just the cost, chemicals, and everything else. Where we can take all that, and put it on the new plant. So, and then have our operators not going all over the place looking at plants, that will be at the one plant, managing and operating that. But like I said, the possibility of new customers, we just picked, Amazon just came on there, they're going to Tomoka, Dollar General, Tomoka. Now, if we start going up that way and they get a developer or something, all those flows go to that Tomoka plant. And we take it offline, then they'll go to the new plant.
So for my satisfaction, the cost benefit of savings on all of those things, given there are no new customers, outweighs using the decommissioning money to take on new customers somewhere else, correct?
Correct.
Let me interject for a minute. If you don't decommission Tomoka, then you will rebuild Tomoka. What started all of this is the BMAP and the requirements for us to go to advanced treatment to meet phosphorus and nitrogen reductions. So if you don't decommission Tomoka, we're in the permitting year, they're in the permitting year for Tomoka. You have 5 years that we would be forced to rebuild Tomoka to meet the new requirements. It doesn't just stay and keep operating. That's why these 3 plants are getting decommissioned, because they don't meet the requirements, the BMAP requirements that are set by DEP and Southwest Florida Water Management. So we have to either abandon that plant, or you will be forced to rebuild that plant to meet the new standards.
Yeah, no, I'm not arguing with you.
No,
I just wanted to make sure that everybody is aware that the analysis works.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you understood that leaving the plant operating as is not an option. It's not just you keep operating it. You either rebuild it to meet new standards, or you decommission it. So.
Any other comments from the public? Yes, Swirly.
I always seem to be in the middle of all of this. It's Deborah Worley, 380 East Center Lake Boulevard, Lake Placid. When the sewer line went down, Hibiscus, which is in back of the college, it services the college all the way to Walgreens. All that property along there, everybody didn't hook in. So, but because of my knowledge, while they were running the line, I went ahead and had them hook in my vacant lots, so they could be actually hooked right into the sewer and the water. So there's 3 lots there, but that also might be a possibility for new customers, because the line's already there. People weren't forced to hook in. So I'm just saying, there's current properties that are not hooked in along that Hibiscus. So maybe if there was money available to hook them in for free, and it was at that time, but only for a certain low income, they weren't looking at saving the lakes, basically. They were looking at servicing low income people and providing services. So it's a different day now. So there might be a possibility that maybe you could have those people hooked in, even if they don't fall within the certain guidelines for the income. So anyway, that's a possibility. And then the other issue is, I own property on Lake Serena. Lake Serena and Lake Pearl are some of the cleanest lakes in our county. It's kind of preventive to have them hooked in off the septics, but I own property there and there is a septic and I want to be a new customer. So I just want to, my address is actually on Lake Drive East, but that's not correct. But that's how close I am to Lake Drive East. But I would be a proponent of trying to get the septics off those lakes there before they go any more into decline. We used to get our drinking water right out of Lake Serena. That's how clean that lake is. It looks like a bathtub. Both of those lakes do. They're just so pristine. That's why I bought property on it. So anyway, I just want to say, don't want to regress, but I'd like to be a customer. Thank you.
Anyone else? Jack?
Can I ask a question about the water service, not wastewater? Okay. I've had some people ask me about their, I guess because of the rate increase, asking me about their, increased water bills. And I think I told them correctly that when the meters are read, you basically read them in 1,000-gallon increments, so that, let's say if somebody used 4,010 gallons and the next door neighbor used 4,900 gallons that particular month, right? They still get the same bill, but the next month it would make up one, so that, in other words, some of the people think they're being cheated, because they feel they used the same amount of water each month, but their bill varies a little bit. And what I'm saying is, it's just the way the bill is rounded to basically, I guess, the lowest $1,000 increment each month, so that one month, you're on the low end of it, the next month you use 5,010 gallons or whatever, and you get a bill for 5,000. Did I explain that to them correctly?
Is that correct, Leanne?
That's correct. That is correct. And it's like every 1,000 gallons. So whenever it rolls over, then you get the next increment of the
Yeah, so
rate.
it makes up for itself in the long run, but some people were asking me, if they were getting cheated or something. Okay, and the other question is on the water main breaks that we've been having, especially in, I'll say November. It seemed like there were several. Are the breaks in the underground lines, or is somebody hitting fire hydrants, or what's?
Most of them are in the pipes in the ground. Most of them are services. A lot of them, we've had some water main breaks, the actual main. It's just the age of the pipes, age of the service material. So we haven't had the funds to upgrade these pipes and stuff. So we are working on that. But the majority are service leaks, which is the service line coming off the main to the meter.
Update that a little bit more. Okay. Leanne Bemis, compliance coordinator. So out of our last 10 line breaks, which is, I believe all we had last year was 10, 2 were they were improperly located. So we located the line and the company still dug where they were not supposed to. So that was 2 different line breaks. And then we had 2 fire hydrants were both run into over this past year. And then we had 1 that was out of service and we needed to repair it. So that was also technically a shutdown boil water situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, from the that report that we got from the Florida
Rural water assessment.
Right. Yeah. they listed, the way I looked at it, it looked like most of the underground lines were, I'll call it PVC. It's not PVC, but it's some kind of a
It's a C900, yep.
yeah, and they listed them, I believe, as having like a 100-year lifespan. Now, obviously, if somebody runs into it, that doesn't count, you know. But are most of the lines in our town that this plastic?
It varies. I'm not sure when they actually put the lines in town. We'll say 60 back 50s, that was a cast iron.
Yeah.
Then they went to a ductile iron. Then they started using the PVC.
Oh.
So it's hard to say. We got asbestos pipe in town. You know, it's concrete pipe.
Uh-huh.
So you have a variety of different pipes in town. So the lifespan on the cast is lower than the ductile. The ductile's lifespan shorter than the PVC.
Right.
But the ductile's more stronger than the PVC, but they're close. So it's just older, aging infrastructure, you know, that we are working on. Kevin did the pipe bursting on Interlake. We're trying to get a grant to do the rest of that project. So that'll be C900 PVC.
Uh-huh.
And as we go, try to get money or get the funds, capital funds built up, we'll start doing little projects like that, upgrading the water mains.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
You know, this time of year, because of the weather and because of the type of soil we have, it allows the pipes to move, and that causes the breaks. It's nothing matter with the pipes or anything else. It's because of the situation. And this time of year, between November and May, you can expect that, you know, you're going to get some breaks in those pipes.
Right, that's just ground shifting. If anybody's from up north, that's when most of the time you get water main breaks. Or summertime is when their pressure breaks because everybody's using a ton of water. So down here, where it's beautiful and no snow, you know, you do get some movement of the ground down here. But the service leaks, there's a black poly service line out there. It was like first generation. The lifespan on that's very low. That's why we're replacing with the new generation, the blue poly, when you see that, so.
Most of the time, if it's in the pipe, you know, it's before they get to the meter. So if it doesn't go through the meter, our customer doesn't have to pay for that.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't concerned about that. I was just wondering whether it was line breaks or people hitting fire hydrants, basically, or a combination of the two. One more question too, Bert. I think you've started, or you're in the process of starting, that $42,000 project to paint the fire hydrants and flow test and certain things. Has that actually started yet, or?
Yes, they started the week before Christmas. They were working up in Tomoka. I'm not sure exactly where they're at yet. They said about 6 weeks they'll be completed, and it was only 22,000.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's it. No, we're trying to save money.
Yes, you're right.
As of now, they've only come across 2 hydrants. We're repairing them now. So it seems like we're doing a good percentage, everything working out there.
Okay, and I think back in November you had said the next project was going to be to repair things that were found in...
Oh, no. As they find them, we're repairing them.
Okay.
The next project will involve the isolation valve or a hydrant valve operation.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's what it is. No, as they find them, we're fixing them. They're going to paint them. So every hydrant, when they're done, should be in service.
Okay, so the next project then you're talking about, back in November, I think you had said that was tentatively scheduled for next year.
For the valve exercise.
Did you mean this year now or 2027?
It'd be 2026, 27 budget.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I was going to say Rachel is available. I know that we can see it here, but you can see it on the screen in front of you with the different grants or loans and such, and the funding source, the amounts that were approved, amount requested, repayment amount, things of that nature. If you'd like for her to go through that, she's available to answer any questions you have.
No questions?
Always available as well to do one-on-ones. We have done that with the members of council so that you could come in, sit down with us. We could go through it very thoroughly if you'd like, but for the sake of time, if you don't want us to go through that here, that's fine. We just wanted to give you that opportunity.
What's the pleasure of the board? Would you like her to go through it, or we're good? Do you want to go through it? We're good? Good. Okay. So, any other comments from anyone, anywhere? Okay, seeing none, I'm about to adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for coming. Yes. We got something else?
Oh,
The what?
The director's
I want to go
report.
over the director's report. It's the end of the year, shows everything we accomplished this year. It'll only take a couple more minutes.
Okay.
It's just they have to get ready for the groundbreaking for the police station, that's all. That's why we had them go first.
We kind of went over that. Yeah.
So this is the end of the year. This is the projects that we did accomplish. I'm pretty proud of it for a little funding we had in our budget. We got a lot done, I believe. Let me find it right here. So basically, the administrative, we got the utility rate increase approved. That'll help us build up our funds, capital, and operations. We got our water, wastewater asset management plan produced by Florida Rural Water approved, the 25-26 budget. On the water side, we had radio towers installed on Highway Park in Tomoka. So when we get the new meters in, they'll be able to read them. And I'm from the office on computers. We did a chlorine gas to liquid chlorine conversion at Tomoka. We put a skid in there. We replaced chlorine tanks for Serena at Highway Park and Tomoka. The water asset management plan produced by Flow Water was done. We had two new service pumps, one installed at Highway Park and one at Tomoka. We repaired the well at Magnolia, which started our annual fire hire inspections and maintenance and flow. On the wastewater side, Camp and Conference Center, new lift station, force mains in service. Getting close to finishing up the 1 million gallon advanced water treatment plant. That should be done in March. The new lift station at Marquardt to be completed this month. New lift station and expansion on North Main Street should be completed this month. We hired a new septic to sewer coordinator, Jennifer Cooper. She's working on setting up the program for the grind stations and implementing the 319 grant. Our grants, we have a 319 grant for installation on private property, and that was about $490, I believe. We were awarded a resilient DEP Resilient Florida program for 25-26 for planning grant. We received another one, it's not on here, for infrastructure strengthening, which will, for bypass pumps, generators, and updating SCADA. I think that was $2.7 million. We were supposed to buy a new vehicle, but we ended up buying 2 used vehicles for the same price. So I think it was a productive year, and hopefully this year will be better, and continue working and getting things done. That's our goal.
Good job.
If you have any questions?
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone, for coming. Adjourning the meeting,